Hi, Roger here.
And Luke. Been a while since our last proper video.
So big revelations of video games are right around the corner. I wanted this video out now, like getting our thoughts, our cards on the table, so to speak, before the emotions come, because I was looking at the Ghostbusters free internet drama, and I feel there might be some high emotions when a certain game is announced as well, so I'd rather not have a video about it right before or after the potential announcement, but right now, in the calm before the storm, so to speak.
Exactly. So here are our thoughts on the most anticipated game of the year. The Legend of Zelda U.
Actually, I wanted to talk about...
Finally, a more open world Zelda game. A good call. Skyward Sword was too linear and too restricted to bird flying for its own good. I'm really hoping the game will be more like Skyrim or Oblivion, with a vast kingdom with tons of missions. Missions like what Majora's Mask did.
Are you sure they merely go to action open world stuff right after Hyrule Warriors? You'd think they'd differentiate from that.
Wouldn't it be awesome if Link would get a talking horse?
That sounds dumb.
Hey, he had a talking boat in Wind Waker and a talking hat in Minish Cap.
Alright, I guess that could happen. They better not give a horse a female voice, or there would be Rule 34 artwork of Link and a horse everywhere.
Oh, Roger. You sound like there isn't tons of internet artwork of Link bonking a horse already. And besides, I'm not sure they said the horse is Epona, so he could have a voice like 1313 from Bravestar.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, that will make people stop drawing porn of it.
What if the game is a reimagining of Zelda for the NES, like how Star Fox Zero is a reimagining of Star Fox 64? The main quest will probably have you search for Triforce pieces, but this could be a whole new reboot ignoring every game before it, so it won't be restricted by timeline continuities.
Since when do they get restricted by timelines? They'll just make it another prequel, telling us yet again how Link got his hat or something.
Minish Cap already did that.
It'll be a new prequel that'll explain Link's outfit and Ganondorf's origin even more than it was already, so that the game after that will be a prequel before that prequel's prequels to even more explain Link's outfit and Ganondorf's origin even more.
I hope there won't be a new sidekick for Link in the game, like an anthropomorphic bow girl, like that's Fi's twin sister but a bow version of something. I really want Link to be more alone on an adventure, instead of being surrounded by stupid sidekicks.
Link is mute, so they kinda have to give him a wacky sidekick so there's some representation of him talking. The same way Mario always has a weird flying yellow ball or spirit or whatever hanging around in his RPGs.
I wonder, in Skyward Sword we saw the ancient world where it was all factories and robots. If this new game is a prequel, you think it'll take place there?
That sounds really interesting, and therefore they won't do it. Nah, they'll cling to the generic medieval fantasy tone, I'm sure. I do love that the earliest timeline point of Zelda has those factories and robots, yet when you go to the further games in the timeline, you have something like the first NES Zelda game where people live in caves. I always love to imagine that the villagers in Zelda games are so passive and stupid that technology literally devolves as the series goes along. Start with futuristic robot cities before the timeline and everything is reduced to prehistoric cavemen in the land.
Well, Zelda 2 disagrees with you. That game has medieval towns, and in Spirit Tracks they somehow advanced to steam technology.
Just leave me my amusing thoughts.
I hope Ganondorf won't show up again. We've fought him enough times now. Demise was pretty much like his predecessor, like what Morgoth was to Sauron, and we did have that chick with the huge rack in Hyrule Warriors, and that fashionable witch in Triforce Heroes.
We'll see.
But yeah, so I'm expecting the game to be focused on archery, that you use the gamepad to aim your bow a lot.
Well, it can be integral to the game, or the Nintendo NX version may get trouble. The game needs to work for two different systems now.
Not if the Nintendo NX also has something like the gamepad. So maybe something like Star Fox Zero, but not on rails. That's what I'm expecting it to be. Start with Link in a different outfit in town, some minor adventure starts with him getting his outfit and sidekick, then after 3 dungeons it's plot twist, the bad guy is revealed to be a servant for a bigger evil, Zelda kidnapped, gotta get the Master Sword, and go through 7 more dungeons.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful how stable and predictable Zelda games can be? You know exactly what a Zelda game is, the tone, the universe, the type of gameplay, and all you need to worry about are some details. Will it focus more on boats, more on trains, more on bows, more cartoony art, or more realistic? But in the grand scheme of things, mostly minor touches where the core of the game remains solid as ever. Isn't that in a way comforting? Enough changes that it stays fresh, while enough stays the same so you can grow confidence in the series and have brand loyalty.
Yes, and now you're bringing the conversation to Sonic, aren't you? How it isn't all of that.
Anything is possible. Sonic has no consistent world, no consistent gameplay, no consistent universe. The past decade, Sega handed the keys to several visionaries who all had their way with him and did whatever they wanted. We had Dark Rambo Sonic, laid-back Seinfeld Sonic, bouncy Sesame Street Sonic, anything. Now, let's put our cards on the table for a moment to avoid confusion. This video is not a journalistic piece. It's not about telling the truth, not about providing real information or insights. I didn't talk to any official sources and have no exciting true information. This video is not about talking about the truth. This is just two idiots talking.
One idiot.
Thanks, Luke. Just two folks talking about their thoughts, predictions. No journalistic, no scientific, no truthful value at all. We're just laying our thoughts, our hopes, our fears on the table out in the open, and welcome others to do so in the comments as well. It's a nice way to clear your thoughts, get focused, not to mention it will make things easier and more comfortable to be eventually talking about the actual new game when something is finally revealed, as it's more clear where everyone is mentally, right?
Sure, whatever. But what if there isn't a new game?
To be honest, I think that would be hilarious, mostly because of Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. I mean, that game is already being dragged out of its comfort zone as a simple budget spin-off game for casual fans and bombarded as part of the anniversary festivities, with the PR of that game already saying, oh, this game is in honor of Sonic's 25th anniversary, and other websites like IGN jotting it down as Sonic has his big anniversary going, so obviously there must be celebrated in style, and that's where Sonic Boom Fire and Ice comes in. Ah, poor game.
Yeah, it's so obvious it's mostly made so they could recycle assets from the last game and get more money out of that project, rather than really be something to excite the fans.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it will be a bad game or anything. I have some hope for it, but to make the sequel to Shattered Crystal like the cornerstone of this party, the wedding cake, the guests of honor, the campfire for everyone to gather around to celebrate this milestone, that this is the game where everyone will be toasting their drinks to the future of Sonic, to this thing. Ah, that's so out of its league. Poor game. So for the sake of Boom Fire and Ice not to get an uncomfortable amount of pressure on top of its already awkward existence, let's hope there will be a more proper main game to take that load off. So if, and it's still a big if we'll get a new announcement this month having a free, several Sonic parties and Sonic's birthday, and yes, I know they said the game won't be announced on E3, but still, there's tons of opportunities this month for something to be revealed. So let's think about what our personal predictions, hopes, and fears are. Let's start close to Earth. Luke, what are your reasonably realistic predictions?
I'm expecting probably Sonic Generations 2 with classic, modern, and Boom Sonic. I mean, just look at the promotional pictures.
I disagree they'll do that. Even Sonic Team knows there needs to be more material for brand new generations, and the prospect of reliving the wonders of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric is not much of a selling point, isn't it? Sonic 06 level already got people scoffing, and that level had tons of spectacle and awesome ideas that a better programmed game could bring to the surface, where Rise of Lyric is just dull.
How about something related to Sonic 1, as it is the game's 25th anniversary as well?
That I'm more on board for. In fact, that's my prediction, that they'll do something classic Sonic style again. Maybe not so much specifically just the first, because Sonic 1 has a shaky reputation among the classics. Everyone loves Green Hill Zone, but not so much the rest. It's mostly Sonic 2 that defines the blueprint of what Sonic is. But yeah, something classic Sonic style.
Perhaps something like what Mario All-Stars did, remastering the main 3 Sonic games, but in a brand new graphical engine. So not like Sonic Jam or something, no ports, but rebuilding them anew.
So like Generations, except the full games and not just a bunch of levels. Probably not a Sonic 5, because that means they have to include Sonic 4 in the company, and something tells me they want to keep that one out. Maybe a time travel plot.
Sonic Generations did that.
Not really. I mean, Generations had a time travel element, but didn't really use it. It was more an excuse to just have random levels reappear. I mean, a real time travel concept where modern Sonic really goes into classic Sonic universe and has a full adventure there, instead of just racing through Green Hill Zone and back.
With Sonic CD mechanics too, where you travel in time during the stages as well.
It is a lot of work. Yeah, all of this is too much effort and narratively driven. Actually, forget it. No, what I expect the most is new Sonic colors, except with a heavier emphasis on classic Sonic imagery and references. So not literally classic Sonic, just gimmicky modern Sonic in Green Hill Zone.
So, Sonic Lost World.
Yeah, but more 2D. I think the next one will be 2D. It's cheap, it's easier to do than 3D, less can go wrong, and it's the easiest way to impress people.
Finally, Sonic goes back to his roots. None of his threads or big stories, but just 2D Sonic alone in Green Hill Zone. About time. We haven't had this concept for ages. Not since 2013's Lost World, and Generations, both of them. And Sonic 4, both of them. And Sonic Colors, both of them. And, I mean, for the first time since 1991.
As opposed to all the Sonic 06 games we had, like Sonic Rise of Lyric, one of them.
Sorry, I forgot we're supposed to suffer brain damage and be convinced it's still 2007 and had nothing but Sonic 06 games since the 90s. Duh!
Sarcasm aside, I do hope that if we'll get a new classic-style Sonic game in 2D, they'll spend more time addressing they did it before and what they learned from those experiences and what they're going to do to improve on them, because everyone's continued focus on shooting on Sonic 06 almost implies it's only those mistakes we keep learning from, which, considering that this is an entirely different style of game trying to accomplish entirely different things, is not super relevant to me in terms of gaining my confidence. I want to know what you learned from Sonic 4's shaky reception, not another guarantee that there won't be princesses or Big the Cat or preloaders or whatever comical internet logical things that need to be addressed in it. There's also this interview with current Sonic team head Iizuka talking about Sonic's shaky identity, saying that Sonic Colors, Generations, and Sonic 4, 1 and 2 were meant to establish and solidify Sonic's core identity before launching himself back into spin-offs.
Right, so if the next game will attempt to be a core regular Sonic game with no weird gimmicks around it, it'll be another Sonic Colors, huh?
Most likely. Although Sonic Colors, Generations, and even Episodes 1 and 2 within Sonic 4 all have a vastly different attitude and gameplay style, so if those were supposed to resolve Sonic's identity problem, they didn't do a very good job. They mostly trimmed the fat, but didn't really establish a core.
I suppose Sonic's identity is just 2D jumping on stuff with speed somewhere in there too.
Yeah, and then there's also the Twitter account's supposed hints for the new game, assuming the memes are just Weber's personal flair. What do we see? Primarily classic Sonic and Green Hill Zone imagery everywhere.
And lots of Big the Cat. Will Big the Cat get a game?
Yeah, he will. The Big the Cat Adventure 3 thing. The full version is still coming.
I thought it was already out, and that it was an April Fool's joke.
Apparently not. The trial version wasn't a joke. That genuinely was a trial version. The full game's still coming. I'd say that game will be released on Sonic's birthday, June the 23rd. So if Big was Weber's big hint, then there you go.
Huh. So what do you predict the new story will be like?
I really doubt we'll get a big epic story that will fix up the characters and do anything spectacular. Story's still a touchy subject, and Sega is going hardcore for the Game Grumps Ego Raptor crowd, and they'll rip any story apart. Nah. Story will either be Sonic 3 Knuckles style, quick narrative beats to establish the context for a second and then move on, and that's what I'm hoping for. Oh no, Eggman's shooting a laser at something, go punch him, boom, levels! That's the best case scenario, really. If they do full cutscenes, I'm expecting more Sonic Colors stuff.
You think Pfft will return again?
It's cheap and simple, might be. People want the Sonic series to stabilize, so I suppose sticking to the same writers will create a more consistent tone, at least on that level. Although reviewers ripped the story and jokes apart in reviews for Lost World and Shattered Crystal, so that might have axed them.
For the main games, we know at least Pfft's back for one more round in Boom, Fire and Ice.
Though even if you get different writers, I don't have much hope for anything exciting. If anything, I'll be expecting the dialogue to approach how the dialogue was in Big the Cat's game. Hi, I'm character. Remember game? I said sentence in game because I'm character in game. Remember sentence? You know, hyper self-aware meta fourth wall breaking humor. Because that seems to be the crowd Sega's trying to reach. Those who feel uncomfortable with stories starring cartoon characters but love echo chambers where everyone constantly talks and approaches things from their own perspectives. Oh my god, an official Sonic character validated my own opinion in an official Sega licensed game! That means my opinion is super special, yay!
There was that bloke from Gravity Falls who went to Sega though. Alex Hirsch? He could write a good story, probably.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But I assume the new game, if we'll get a new game this year, would already have been far into production when that news that Alex Hirsch went to Sega was announced. So I doubt they were going to start negotiations on the story if the game was only half a year of production left at that point. At best, I expect him to touch up the dialogue and do localization like what Pfft did on Sonic Colors, although, for all we know, he was there at Sega to talk about a Gravity Falls video game or something.
That show's already over though.
I suppose. But yeah, so those are the most likely predictions. 2D side-scrolling Sonic with tons of references to the past and most likely a strong meta sense of humor throughout. It clicks with the promotion Sonic has been receiving, and the style of hints we got. It's the easiest and cheapest way to get people, and especially casual fans, excited. I'm 90% convinced that this will be what we'll get. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing entirely depends on the execution, and that's something I have severe concerns about, but that's for later. First, let's stay positive. Look, abandon logic, forget about reality, don't care about other fans. In a perfect world where you get exactly what you want, regardless of money, time, possibilities, or other people's tastes, what is your greatest hope for a Sonic game?
Taking the level gameplay ideas from Sonic Generations with original levels. Generations had the right idea of what's fun. There's so much more that could have been done with it. Tweak it a little, perfect it a little, and drop the nostalgic time travel plot, but use the core mechanics to a brand new adventure. What I'd also like would be slow motion gameplay where you could manipulate the environment, where you could jump on platforms that move very quickly, kind of like the Quicksilver segments from the X-Men movies, or any games you know of that uses that mechanic.
You mean Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, or Blink's the Time Detective if we're talking about Sonic. Oh, actually, isn't Silver's gameplay in Sonic 06 kind of like that, manipulating the environment?
Sorry, I don't remember mentioning rushed, unfinished, broken mechanics in my description. And I meant like avoiding fast-moving objects by slowing down everything, or get to a door that would slam shut within seconds. Kind of like using force speed in Jedi Outcast.
Ah, like Sonic Secret Rings, Right, sorry. But yeah, I see time manipulating psychic power stuff more and more in more modern video games. Super Hot, for example. But yeah, I'm not sure if I want weird gimmicky puzzles in a fast-paced Sonic game.
I'm sure they can pull it off.
Sonic Team?
Well, Sonic Team in my unrealistic personal hope dimension. That was the point of this segment, wasn't it?
Oh, right, sure. I did a huge piece on how I would design a Sonic game in a vlog I recently did. However, that was me mostly talking about a game that would please as many people as possible, not really my personal wish. My personal favorite Sonic game would have been like Sonic Adventure, except only Sonic's campaign, maybe the others as optional mini campaigns, but way less emphasis. And also the action stages more in the style of Sonic Generations, minus 2D segments. I just like the stop and go aspects, just non-stop super fast-paced action levels would get hard to keep focused on, and it's super hard and expensive to create a large game that can keep that momentum and energy going, so having little RPG segments in between action stages helps keep the mind flowing along.
I don't think I'll like confusing RPG fields in between the fast-paced action levels. Too much contrast.
If Sonic's super agile and interactive with his environments like how Mario interacts with his hop worlds, it wouldn't be too bad. Also, I admit this is a bit of a more cynical and satirical perspective, but my inner parody Roger, the dark part of my soul, loves to see the world.
That sounds diabolical. Like asking Blizzard to design a Sonic strategy game and get id Software to make a shadow first-person shooter, and we get to vote what it'll be. Heck, maybe the blokes who did that Sonic Dreams Nightmare game will join in the fun.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea, on one hand, but on the other hand, it's also spectacularly fascinating. Sonic's this much of a mess, so just run with it. If you can't control the blue blur, then don't bother to control. At least give the paying customers the power to choose which disastrous direction will crash into. It's a shame Kickstarter's reputation for professional games is down the toilet now, thanks to Mighty Number 9 and such. Because that would have made this more interesting, that you're not just voting for which nightmare scenario we're going for, but telling people to put real money into it. Higher stakes, less chance of cheating, no meaningless votes, but real hard cash on the line. Shadow Doom, that's worth $5. Sonic Dreams 2, that's worth $20.
Oh hey, a Sonic game that's actually a Sonic game? What an insane concept! $0.
And the concept that collects the most money becomes the next main Sonic game, the runner-up the handheld game, and the third winner becomes the cell phone game or something.
Sounds like a horrible idea. I love it.
There's something satisfying to surrendering completely to the dark side, isn't it?
Sounds like the worst and the best idea at the same time. Anyway, our fears for the new games. What I fear the most, another attempt at making a console Sonic Boom game instead of going back to Sonic Prime. We had Fire and Ice for that.
To be honest, I really don't care anymore whether it's classic Sonic, modern Sonic, or Boom Sonic starring. I used to, but not anymore. This isn't like Mega Man, where each Mega Man incarnation actually stands for something. Classic Mega Man is whimsical, childlike story and characters, and clean, methodical run and shoot gameplay. Mega Man X, more darker, intense story, more aggression, gameplay's faster, more rhythm-based. Mega Man Legends, the 3D RPG, Mega Man Battle Network, the Pokemon thing, etc. With Mega Man, I care which Mega Man we get because each Mega Man stands for a tone, each Mega Man stands for a gameplay style, each Mega Man has its own cast, its own personality, its own universe. With Sonic, that's not really the case. Sonic is all over the damn place. None of them have a solid gameplay attached to them. I mean, sure, classic Sonic is supposed to be the 2D platform one and modern Sonic the 3D one, except that's absolutely not the case because modern Sonic is also primarily in 2D. Even Sonic Generations couldn't get that straight, so again, really, what's the point? None of them have a consistent personality, tone, or supporting cast. There's nothing solid about any of them, so what's really the point? Like, what if Sonic Lost Worlds wasn't modern Sonic, but was Boom Sonic? How much would change? Knuckles is still useless, Eggman would still become Sonic's best friend, the Zeddy would still be the kind of casual, relaxed villain with no motivation like Boom always has. Now, back when I was making a Sonic Adventure in Minutes parody, I had a different idea for the company piece, that I was going to do another Sonic Adventure parody, but then in the style written as modern Sonic game style, so... Yeah, you know, perfect chaos would be more like Zam Zam, I'm hungry, and then Sonic would be more boring, like, whatever, blah, blah. Or imagine Sonic Lost World being written in Sonic Adventure style, you know, with Zaphac being this giant monster from hell, aiming a shotgun at Amy, I'm the ultimate life form, and who am I don't know my personality, and then Sonic and Silver and Shadow and Super Awesome the Hedgehog show up and become Turbo, and the heavy metal music plays. The point is, modern Sonic and Adventure-style Sonic are completely different in style, so at least here, there's a point in choosing between them. Oh, I prefer this or I prefer that because they actually stand for a different specific attitude or approach, except for gameplay, then it still doesn't matter.
Hey, at least classic Sonic is mute and shuts the hell up.
Usually yes, but classic Tails and Eggman still talk in Generations, so getting classic Sonic still doesn't guarantee mute cutscenes. It can still have Tails and Eggman patting themselves on the back how much they love their own jokes for 25 minutes.
Also, modern Sonic has the supporting cast of Blaze and Silver and such, if you care for them.
The series seems to violently remove any weight, context, or meaning to these characters. Just look how carelessly they're shoved in the last games. What's the point? They're just nostalgia-shaped puppets now. There's no difference in having the actual characters in there, or just modded in through a fan mod. Also, those characters can easily show up in Sonic Boom. I mean, they just shove Metal Sonic and Shadow into the game and TV show with no context, no history, no build-up or anything. Just boom, here's Bob the Squirrel, he's a popular character from video game, and now you try to murder Sonic here because it's video game. So what's stopping them from shoving in Boom Blaze or Silver into the next game? Hell, they can probably even throw Boom Sally Acorn in, probably. Those characters are completely stripped from any context and meaning, so what does it matter? They're just
Why, you're suddenly moody. Keep a stiff upper lip, mate. Anyway, classic Sonic has the least bad games, the most consistent quality, so there's that.
Yes, that's true, but that's not because of his shape. That's just because Sonic Team barely used him ever since they lost their minds in
I don't see it that badly. I do think using classic Sonic would still wield some respect. You don't take weird chances with classic Sonic, regardless. Other things that would worry me. The new game introducing a new Sonic character that gets a new fan base very quickly.
Ooh, a new Dave the Intern or a new Shadow the Hedgehog, or a combination of the two.
The Deadly Six will get new cousins. The Deadly Eight. Sounds like a Quentin Tarantino movie, or more likely the Adam Sandler parody. Also, let's hope we don't get another story with Sonic acting lame. Have Eggman do something badass. He needs a big powerful moment again to make up for his downtime in Sonic Boom. Even though that was hilarious.
We'll see, but I don't see the type of dialogue content changing anytime soon. Anyway, my fears. I never talked about this on the show in depth about Sonic Lost World games, right? Because there's one thing I noticed. I played the 3DS version first. I kind of liked it. It's alright. I really liked the 2D segments a lot, surprisingly. Then years later, I finally got the Sonic Lost World for the Wii U, because I found it cheap and did love the first level demo. But after the opening stage, the game collapsed for me, and I disliked it, and I especially hated the 2D sections. So I got curious. Why do I like them in the 3DS version, but hate them in the Wii U version? So, the 3DS version, look at the level design. There's slopes everywhere, walls, you're constantly jumping on walls, running up and down, bouncing. This is a level that accommodates Sonic's abilities, because that's the point of Sonic Lost World, right? To do running on walls and doing cool stunts. The 3DS version does that a lot. Then I played the Wii U version, and the 2D levels look like this most of the time. Flat. Completely flat, like it's a Super Mario level. It doesn't make use of Sonic's abilities. Worse are the indoor sections where it's not only flat, but also extremely claustrophobic. Low ceilings, dead ends, precision jumpings. This section, ugh. The parkour is not only useless here, it even makes everything harder because I keep sticking to the walls when I'm trying to run the hell away from obstacles. There's never enough room to do any stunts. These segments are entirely designed around close quarter precision jumping, and this Sonic is just not designed for that. This Sonic is designed to either tiptoe around complicated 3D sections or violently run into walls.
Is this like what you said in the previous Dissected? That you said Sonic colours felt to you like you're driving a drag racer on a go-kart track? That the playable character and the level surrounding him don't connect?
Exactly. It's what everyone's saying, right? Especially me. Sonic has a huge identity crisis, and this identity crisis runs deep. We're not just talking about individual whims of individual games in a larger series like Shadow's game, not fitting entirely with the rest of the games in style. It even runs deep in the veins of every individual game's mechanics, where I continuously have the feeling that there's no communication between the teams working on the games, that everyone is in their own little corner doing whatever they want. So we get a Sonic designed for a specific gameplay mechanic, but without any levels that accommodate that gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, the ice skating in Lost World snow level is pretty neat, but it feels out of place in the levels it's in. And then there's the language. Lost World has some dark sounding dialogue in a game that looks like something that looks like a Care Bears game. Not as dark as Shadow's dialogue in his game, but at least that game, looking at it individually, looks like the kind of universe that's worthy of curse words. I would say damn all the time too if I had Doom stalking me like a deranged puppy of death.
It's this weird sense that every individual part of the game development exists in its own little world. And again, you see it happen on so many levels. Sonic Rise of Lyric hires the same writers of the Sonic Boom TV show and has Izuka from Sonic Team to supervise.
It's fascinating how every story he wrote or supervised seemed to have Shadow the Hedgehog playing a large role. And yet in every one of these games, Shadow has an entirely different personality. You'd think the guy writing the entire game of Shadow, finding his identity, would know. Perhaps all of Shadow's multiple endings are all canon, and each game he returns in we get a different version of Shadow. I mean, there's all these Shadow clones.
Yeah. But then it managed to completely fail to feel like any of those series at all anyway, with Freiberger even stating later in an interview that he deliberately gave the game a different tone because it's a video game. Or, on another level, the Twitter account is doing very well now, right? Successful, everyone loves its joke and its interpretation of the Sonic universe, so you'd think at this point that Sega would capitalize on the Twitter success and bring out merchandise containing the kind of content the Twitter provides. Big the Cat t-shirts, Sonic t-shirts, It's No Use Get a Load of This t-shirts, but no, the merchandise people still desperately try to convince me that Sonic is epic and awesome and has Shadow and Metal Sonic and epic adventures, even though all those elements have been entirely irrelevant for a while now. I feel like a sore thumb in the current material. It's this chaos that gives me the idea that there's just no plans, no strategy, no identity. It's just a big giant pile of people doing whatever, and it's that makes me the most concerned about in the future game. Not so much that if it's finished or polished, I'm sure they won't do another Sonic 06 disaster. We'll make absolutely sure it won't have any obvious surface issues. It will look professional. And the specific direction of the game is something to be concerned about, but not my main concern. Even if the game ends up being about something that I don't particularly like, it's always possible that a focused production with people in charge who know what they're doing can still pull it off, that I might enjoy a brand new interpretation of Sonic. But in order for that to happen, it needs a leader, it needs a core, it needs a person at the center who knows what the game is, where the joy comes from, where the challenge comes from, and tell his entire team that every song, every level layout, every ability, every control scheme, every design decision, everything connects to this concept, this core, this identity of this game, and that it isn't yet another big incomprehensible pile of potentially good ideas, but all jammed to smash together with little to no philosophy or direction behind it. Sonic Lost World has tons and tons of great ideas that I really love. I love the parkours, I love the ice skating, I love a lot of its story concepts, I love some of the level artwork. There's tons of good stuff in there, but in especially the Wii U version, I can't enjoy any of them because none get the attention and focus they deserve and are completely undersnowed by all the other contradicting concepts that are shoved in with little thought. And this isn't something you can fix with just polishing or giving the developers more time. This requires leadership, this requires a vision, this requires awareness, and for all the promises of quality and all the shots they keep taking at Sonic 06 and the adventure games for being crappy, it's the current problems I never see addressed or mentioned, and I'm worried that everyone's only busy by fixing phantom problems, that everyone's eternal obsession with Sonic 06 keeps everyone eternally stuck with fixing the problems of that game, even though they already have been addressed and obliterated by Unleashed Colors and especially Generations, shouldn't be relevant anymore, instead of this new problem. The worst thing is that the current folks at Sega are aware that there's an identity problem, but don't understand what it is or what it means. Like this Iizuka interview where he says Sonic Colors, Generations, and Sonic 4 are his answer to Sonic's identity crisis. All these games have a completely different core concept, a different approach. The only thing that they have in common is that they give the middle finger to story, side characters, and 3D, so that wins the crowds on a superficial level, but as soon as we look to that elusive and oh so important and holy gameplay, there's not much of a connection. They're supposed to represent the classics, where speed and platforming is combined. The faster you go, the more momentum you have for the platforming challenges. Then Sonic Colors goes into the polar opposite direction by disconnecting speed from platforming, making them two separate things. It's primarily a platformer with speed being irrelevant, occasionally interrupted by a section of pure speed with no platforming. Generations is the polar opposite of that, being primarily about speed running, although with an increased amount of platforming in those sections, occasionally interrupted by pure platforming. And those are the games that even have a strategy around utilizing speed and platforming. Then Sonic 4 has no idea what to do with either speed or platforming, and gets its gameplay focused mostly around level or tag team specific gimmicks. So regardless if you like them or not, all of them have an entirely different approach. This is troubling to me because these games are supposed to represent Sonic's core identity, and they can't even agree on how important speed or platforming is or how they work together. And in my personal case, I absolutely love Sonic Generations, I absolutely hate Sonic Colors, and I don't particularly care for Sonic 4, so that means I simultaneously hate, love, and don't care about Sonic at the same time, and that's even before the actual game-specific concepts are added. Talk about a conundrum. So in the end, the only consistent element of these games is that they all trim the fat and are responsible for toning down the story and the use of characters, so I suppose that represents Sonic's identity. Not what they are, but instead what they remove. And even those problems were solved in a half-ass way. The needed characters may be gone, but the reason why people dislike those characters is that they keep diluting the core gameplay with stupid gimmicks, and that is now adapted to Sonic's gameplay anyway, so that's the equivalent of cleaning your room by just sweeping the dust under the rug. Problem's still there, just harder to identify, so whatever. And isn't that the perfect metaphor for the series now, that its identity is not what it is, but only what it isn't? Doesn't that sum up most Sonic fans' reactions to new games? I don't care what it is, as long as it doesn't have annoying characters, slash bad stories, slash stupid jokes, slash rock music, slash voice acting, slash flying donuts. So yeah, even when the creators actually try to keep it simple and create some sort of core, they still are all over the place, so we have absolutely no idea what Iizuka is going to do next.
Although at least sometimes he gets it right and gives us a game that's kind of good. That's nice. So despite everything, the future can look very bright for us this month. Although you better enjoy the game as it is, because there won't be a follow-up. The game after will be completely different again.
I suppose that's just Sonic, just going where the wind leads him.
Even if the wind keeps making him run into walls, traffic and off cliffs constantly.
Although right now it led him to Legoland, which I am actually very happy about. I love the Lego games. They're great games, fantastic, and they have a way better sense of humor than most of the humorous Sonic stuff these days have, because, you know, they use positive humor, they engage, they use things that are silly and wacky and make it crazier and you know, build on top of it instead of just break everything down, so I'm looking forward to that at least.
Well, those were our thoughts, dear audience. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.
Anyway, let us know your hopes, your dreams, your expectations in the comments, and we'll laugh at you and say you're wrong and stupid, because Sonic fans.
God bless us, everyone.